Welcome in. What's happening, everybody? Welcome in to another live interview. We're going to wait a couple of minutes for a couple more people to drop in. I've got an awesome interviewee for you this evening. It's going to be a fun night. Quick bit of homework so that you guys know what's going on. So Freestyle Rudiments, obviously, is myself. We went into lockdown in the UK back in what seems like 1985 or something now, but a long time ago. So through that time, what I was doing is I was doing free online lessons, and that moved on to free interviews. And we interviewed some awesome guys. We had Sean Vega in, Sean Power, and it was great fun. Obviously, at some point in England, we kind of went back to normal, at least for a little while, and we're back on lockdown. So as a professional musician myself, I'm fully locked down. So it's pretty bad times, but let's hope we'll get through this pretty soon. Now, the good news is you guys get me back doing some free live lessons, but also doing some interviews for you. So we've had some interviews going in the past on the Saturdays, and I find that the best day tends to be the weekdays, because obviously so the guys in the States who we've been interviewing are in different time zones. And so we've got someone again from the States this evening. I've got another interview lined up for you next week and the following week, and then we're back out of lockdown, but we shall see. Let's see what happens. If you guys enjoy this, then please share it. Please let other people know about it. Throughout the lesson, if you just want to type in any questions you've got for myself or our guest, you're going to see me looking around at the screen every now and then to read your questions. So any questions, ask away. I'm sure there's some friends of his going to be dropping in and asking questions. So yeah, go ahead. Quick bit of housekeeping. So Marching Drummers Lounge on Facebook, we've got our own little group. We created this when we first started out, and there's a few hundred people in there now. And basically we sit in there, talk about drums, any kind of marching drums. There's a bit of a WGI and DCI bias going on, but we tend to get ourselves in there and talk about all sorts of crazy stuff. When I do the lessons, the notation from the lessons are in there, and these interviews are left in there for you to go and watch again. So if you're not already in there, please get yourself in there. Marching Drummers Lounge on Facebook. And for you guys who are not watching on YouTube, Freestyle Rudiments over on YouTube. This interview will be up there. There's free lessons up there. There's all sorts of content. So get yourself in there and enjoy that. So when we have our interviewees on here, one of the bad things that I find is I need a live audience. What I'm waiting for is COVID to go. Hire a big studio, or probably not me hire it. Someone hire me a big studio and just have a live audience. Without the live audience, the one thing that's really missing is our big claps on the intro. So whenever we introduce a guest, I want lots of virtual C's on your keyboard. Clap, 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 so that we know that you're watching. Or send us some images, some memes, whatever you want. But I think we're going to introduce our guests, get stuck in. As I said, if you start to get something out of this interview and you're like, yeah, I know this person and this one would love to come and watch this, tag them in. Let's get as many people in here as we can. Obviously, for the Americans, I know most of you guys are going to be at work and watching this in the future. So likewise, tag people in, and I hope you enjoy. So tonight's guest. Tonight's guest has got a huge lineage of students, of people that he's passed his knowledge on to. And so I kind of think of certain people in drum corps as kind of Jedi. Now he'll probably like that because I know that he's into Star Wars, but which might give away who it is actually. But he's there's certain people in drum corps. There's like Yoda, who you know, and there's these other Jedis that you don't really know, but you recognize them, and he's one of these guys. So although you guys might not know the name instantly, you're certainly going to enjoy this interview tonight. You're going to find out that he's got a massive influence on the drum corps scene, the WGI scene. He's marched Velvet Knights, he's marched Blue Devils, he's marched the Cadets, he's taught RCC, he's taught Velvet Knights, Troopers. He's done the whole lot. He's an author now. He's got a book out, which we're going to talk about later on. So everybody, I'd like to give a big warm welcome, or virtual welcome, to Mr. Pete Sapadin. Hello. I always feel like I need a huge round of applause there, and I haven't got one. I'm sorry. Oh man, hold on. I've got no sound. I've lost your sound.
Oh, that's my fault. How we doing now?
That's better. That's the scene.
Yeah. Well, I was just making sure I was muted. Huh?
That is the scene that I think of. There's certain guys that I'm like, he's a Jedi, he's a Jedi, he's a Jedi, and you're one of those guys. That's perfect. That scene.
That's funny. I probably shouldn't be playing around with my backgrounds. I usually don't do Skype. I usually do Zoom. You know.
So anything could.
But then when you started talking about the Jedi. I thought that was pretty funny. I had to drop that in there. So
Nice, very good, man.
yeah, man. I mean, besides the movies not always living up to the hype, the thing that I love the idea of the Jedi. It's always a cool thing of just someone being awesome, but also using all of their amazing powers for good.
Yeah.
So that's I know there's a lot of fans of that in this activity.
No, fully.
But thanks for the intro, man. It's
pleasure.
Well, I don't expect.
Well, we've got a huge. Someone's just put Jeff Queen, Pete, Roger Carter, Jeff. Yeah, there's so many Jedis that should be in there, and you're certainly in with that crew. Now, there's I mentioned this off air when I spoke to you, where you've got such a huge amount of marching experience, that I want to pick out certain parts. But there's one part that I can't really miss, and that's at the very beginning. So what I'd maybe like to do, if it's okay with you, is just talk about that moment, that trigger that you had when you were, whatever age you were, where you were like, I want to do that. And I think that most people tend to have that. Did you have that kind of moment?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I got into high school band when I was a freshman in high school because my brother is a really great clarinet player. He lives in New York City. He's like a freelancer, and he's a legit player. And he's done gigs at he's performed with the Metropolitan Opera, like that level of player. But anyway, he wasn't then, but he was in high school. It's like, Pete, you got to join band. I'm like, no, I don't play anything. He said, well, just pick what would I play? They go, you can play whatever you want. They'll teach you. And I was like, almost like as a dare. Okay, then I'll play drums, because at that point in my life, it seemed like my mom didn't really want me to play drums. I had tried a lot of different things, and I would pick something up for a while and then quit. So she thought it would be another one of those things, and why deal with all that noise in her mind, with something that I'm probably not going to stick with. And I said, okay, I'll play drums. And then she's like, my brother goes, like, good. I'm like, wait, they'll teach me? Yeah, oh yeah. All right. Really? Okay, I'm there then, because I remember thinking I'm not going to wake up that early, because in Southern California, the band scene is very much they call it zero period. So we're there before school starts for an hour.
Oh, okay. I never knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to make enough room in the day for all the classes and still have a band class where everybody can be in there, because there's not that many classes offered. So if you try to have full marching band happening like in the middle of the day, some kids, even though they're in it, they wouldn't be able to do the class because there's one math class that they have to take that's only offered at that time for them, so stuff like that. And I had my drum instructor, my first guy, his name was Dave Ramirez, and he was in the Kingsmen drum line, and then went on to do the Velvet Knights in I think it was '85. He did Velvet Knights, and in that snare line was also Kevin Murray and Dave Hinkle and a bunch of other really good players, good guys. And Dave Ramirez taught me. He taught me. He's like, here, this is a stick. This is how you hold it. He was my first guy. And he's also a great drum set player. He lives in the Las Vegas area. He did like a bunch of cruise ship gigs, and now I think he's just playing around town in Las Vegas. Just super versatile. I wish I had picked up all of his drum set knowledge, because he's amazing on kit and can do anything. And he taught me. And back then, it was kind of. I actually went with him once to a Wednesday night rehearsal at VK. This was in '85. This was when I was maybe I was a sophomore.
So what?
Because I played bass drum my freshman year, and my second year of high school I played snare at my house because I was really into it. And then he's like, "Hey, we're having a rehearsal," and they would do Wednesday night rehearsals at this industrial area, VK snare line. And David goes, "Why don't you come with me?" I'm like, "Sure." And it's weird, at that time it was kind of okay. It wasn't like nothing bad happened. It wasn't like, oh my God, you got in a car with your instructor and went somewhere that's not school. Yeah. Danger. Yeah. Which a lot of times can be, for sure, but this is one of those examples when it was just wholesome. It was just good. I got to see this, this great drumline. In my mind, it was unbelievable. Like, everybody was so much better than me. And I just got to be a fly on the wall and watch rehearsal, and then go for coffee and French fries at like Hoff's Hut or whatever, or one of those places afterwards, and that was, I knew I wanted to keep going with it. I definitely knew that. But then the thing that really kind of really cemented it, I guess, was when I saw 86 Blue Devils I saw them in the Southern California tour. I think it was, I was at maybe the Orange Coast College show, or it was the Kingsman show at the time.
Okay.
And I went to there and I watched them warming up before the show. This was sophomore Pete, and to my mind, I was just so blown away. I just couldn't even understand, like, how could it be that clean? Like, how can all these people sound like that?
Yeah.
Amazingly tight, and then I just remember sitting there just thinking, and I was like dreaming with my other friend who was a sophomore. And I remembered, man, just he was also in the drum line and a young snare player too. We were both on snare. His name is Jim Dever. Hey, Jim. And he says, I'm like, dude, can you even imagine like just being in that drum line, like playing anything? Who cares? Like how awesome would it be to just be in that drum line? I would be so happy to be playing cymbals, to play, you name it. It would be, oh wait, imagine if you were in snare line. And I was like, whoa, wait. What if you were center snare? Then I was like, I must become center snare of Blue Devils. Oh, it's like I had that moment, and I said, I'm going to do it, And then I just kept on, I didn't stop. I got into the best groups I could get into at the time, for my age and for my skill level. I was able to get into the Kingsmen in '86, but I didn't go on tour. I wound up having to quit.
Right.
It was a mom thing. Mom did not want me to go on tour at that time.
I can understand.
She just heard a lot of stories, and she was just like worried about supervision, and you're so young, and she just pulled the plug on me. Even though after I'd made it, I was like, and embarrassing to have to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm out because my mom.
Looking back now, like
it was a bummer.
Trying to explain to people, you all get on the bus and you travel around the country, or you stay in hotels. No, you stay in schools. And it's kind of like, you can understand why parents, especially back then, were like, what? Like, it's crazy. I want to go to VK, right?
Yeah.
So you went to VK.
Sure.
How, like, you must have auditioned, I assume, or was it just you knew the right people and it was like, hey, Pete, come jump straight in? Like, what was the step that you took to get into there?
No, it was audition. And, after I didn't go on tour in '86, in Kingsman, one of the things that really influenced me was all the other players that I met that were in Kingsman in '86. I would go on to march with for almost the rest of my marching kind of career, because all these other guys were young too. And I remember meeting these guys, and I'm like, and this guy all better than me. And I'm like, oh my god, this guy's playing. And I'm like, what is that? I don't even know it. I can't even play good flandrags yet. And I find out, how old is that guy? Was he aging out? And go, no, he's also a sophomore. He goes to Carson High School. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, I'm going to see these guys in every audition from now until I try to make it into the Blue Devils, and they're already shellacking me, So it was when I didn't go on tour that year, it was huge motivation for me because I already knew I was behind, because I got to see like a larger world of different kids from different schools, And although I was the man at my school, when you go and you see other places and you realize that, I'm pretty good, but man, this guy's my agent. He's smoking me, straight up. Like I have no chance against this guy. Like if I was picking people, I'd pick him, not me. Yeah. So it was an eye opener, but for me, it wasn't like a downer. It was a motivator, and it was just like, okay, now I know what I got to do, and I'm going to practice my butt off because I'm not going to be on tour playing every day. So then when I went to VK to audition, almost everybody that was in Kingsman was there to audition for VK the next year. So I knew a lot of those guys, like from that experience, And Dale Lofgren was the snare tech. He was one of the major staff people under Matt Savage there. Okay. Matt, great. It was basically kind of like the West Coast Bayonne Bridgman in a weird way, like because all the staff was mostly from Bayonne. Right. But Dale was from Santa Clara and from Kingsman. Dale had actually marched in the Kingsman snare line with Tom Float and Ralph Hardiman and Al Murray and all those guys. And then later he went on and did the Santa Clara in their like early like 75 or something like that, when they were just super amazing. He was one of the guys there, and he's total Jedi master. And then he was there, and I remember in VK, it was a lot of people coming to audition, huge numbers. So he would have everybody that wanted to try out on snare make a single file line, and there was one snare and one carrier, and you had to walk up in front of everybody. He was there at the end. You pick up the drum and he'd say, play me this. Let me see some of that. Let me see some cheese. Let me see some flam. Can you play flam accents? Can you see flam taps? Whatever. And he just ask you whatever. You play. And he says, okay, you're not ready for snare, but I really think you should go check out the bass drum section. So, over there. So you couldn't just go grab a snare unless you went through the Dale Lofgren filter.
Right. And
then you could pick up the drum and do a little workshop, and they work with everybody and see how everybody's doing, if they think you've got a shot, Yeah. And I had met Dale in '86. Funny enough, my brother, clarinet player, he was a senior. So he was going to auditions for scholarship. And he was auditioning at Long Beach State. And I was with him for just moral support. It was like I was a weekend or something, and I'm just hanging out with my mom and my brother. Like, yeah, let's do it. Go get him, David. And then we're walking up to where he has to go audition, and I look up and there's a field, and there's these blue drums and this big drum line, and I realized that's VK. This was in '86. I'm like, oh my God. I go, David, good luck. I'm gonna go hang out. When you guys are done, can you come get me? I didn't know I was planning to go watch a drum line rehearsal, but see ya. So I went. And I just, parked it on the front sideline and was just loving it, just watching. I'm like, wow. And then Matt Savage comes over. He might have recognized me from being Dave Ramirez's student from before.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. But I was just sitting there. And he walks up to me. He goes, hey, yeah. He goes, what do you think? I'm like, I go, man, it's awesome. He goes, hey, you want to audition? And I'm kind of like, that's why I'm here, but I was just like, I would love to audition, but I'm actually here for my brother. And I didn't realize you guys were going to be here. So I don't have sticks. He goes, well, we can get you sticks. I'm like, all right, I'm in. I would love to audition, So then he says, okay, why don't you go over there? Dale's going to take you. So Dale Lofgren takes me over on a literal bench, on a wood bench.
Yeah.
And he asked me to play some stuff, and I play some stuff. And, he's like, let me see some rolls. I play some rolls. He goes, okay, let me see. All right. And then he takes the sticks, and then he plays with the same sticks on the same surface. And then as soon as he played, I realized like what a drumming god he was, right? Because like I felt like such a little kid. He picked up the sticks. He's like, and it was just like filled your soul with his beats, and it was so clear and even and fat and loud, and it was just like, oh, I didn't even know it got like that. I'm like, it was just an education to hear someone play like that. So then I'm like, wow, how do you even get that sound? And he started working with me, and he goes, okay, the deal is, this is '86, and I'm a sophomore, and this is my second year playing snare, my second year playing drums. And he goes, you know what? If you had come in the beginning of the year, I think you might have made it. He goes, but at this stage, it's a little too late for you to make that journey. But you should definitely come back next year, and here's some things you should work on. And he gives me like a private lesson there.
Oh, so he's
like
setting you up for
the battery was like in a visual rehearsal. That's what I was kind of watching. But so then he sat there and just worked with me for like an hour and just helped me so much, just with understanding. Not that I was like, now I'm ready for the line, but now I knew the journey. I knew what I had to work on in an even better way, even though I learned a lot from Dave Ramirez because everything he taught me was great. It wasn't ever like, oh, I have to unlearn anything, but because I was lucky that way. It wasn't my choice to have him teach me, someone that knew what was up. And then he goes, okay, you know what? We got a snare sectional right now. Why don't you come with me and just come in? I'm like, sure. So I walk over with him, and he's working with the snare line, and I'm just kind of watching. And then he's like, cut. And then he says, he turns to me. He goes, Pete, that's what I was talking to you about earlier. Then he's using the sectional to further explain to me some of the concepts that he was teaching me during that lesson on the bench.
That's cool.
Love you, Dale. Love you, Dale.
So how long was he at VK for? Was he there when you actually went back and then marched? Or
yes, yeah, he was there in '80. I want to say he was there like '85, '86, '87. He wound up leaving in '87. Partially like in the beginning of the he had personal things going on, and he wound up having to leave, but yeah, so I got to learn from him again, like when I made it. So then when I was there in '87 for the auditions, make a short story long, he's there at the end and everybody's in single file. It gets to me. He goes, all right. He goes, let's see some of this. I'm like, let me see some of that.
Yeah.
And he just keeps on, and he keeps on going deeper. Some cheese. Flam jacks, backsticking. I'm like, all this stuff I've been working on. Like, you're like this, all right. And then he goes like this a single file line. And he leans like this, looks down at the line. He goes, that didn't scare any of you guys away?
Uh-oh.
He goes, okay. All right. Then he looks at me and he goes, let me ask you a question. He goes, why aren't you going to Blue Devils? You know? And I'm like, at that time, I don't even think. I feel like he's just, he's being super nice.
Yeah, but
because I didn't feel like that was a
there's certain points that you need.
Huge compliment.
Yeah.
And huge confidence booster. Just such a great dude. Knowing, he's that, can't say enough good about Dale. Okay. And then he's like, he goes, so that didn't scare you away. So why aren't you going to Blue Devils? And I was just honest. I said, well, in Blue Devils, you have to move up into town in January, and I'm still in high school. So I'm, once I get out of high school, I'm thinking about doing that. He was like, all right, yeah, go with the Snares.
And that's that. That's his history.
And yeah, and then it was audition a few weekends, and then some people got cut, and some people stuck around, and then that's how it goes. And I got to March '87. So I was the summer before my senior year of high school. So right after my 11th grade year, okay. That summer I did VK.
Pete, just one quick thing. So for the Europeans here, what age are you at that? Because we have different school system. So what age would you be?
I guess that's like 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still pretty young.
Yeah, maybe 17. Yeah. And then so then I marched to VK for 2 years. I did VK in '87 and then '88, came back. And then in '89, I was after I graduated high school. I finished my last year of high school, and I auditioned for Blue Devils. That was a funny audition. Bunch of stuff happened. My buddies, we rented a hotel, and a cheap hotel, me and my buddy, and we drove up there, from Southern California. So it's like a 6 or 7 hour car ride. It's an epic journey. And we got there, we rented our hotel, and somehow I think a dome light in the car, something got left on. So in the morning, we're ready to go audition for Blue Devils. Me and my buddy D'Angelo. What up, D'Angelo? And we get in his car and nothing. He just, and I'm like, and I'm sitting next to him, and you could see how upset and enraged he was getting. And it was like he had shut down because it was like, what, And I'm like, D'Angelo, I think you must have left something on. So it looks like the battery's dead. Do we want to try to call somebody, or let me go flag somebody down, see if anybody's got jumper cables? No response. Check it. Click. I'm like, all right, you keep doing that. I'm gonna go win the war. So I'm like, hey, because I'm kind of extroverted. I don't really care about, I'll talk to somebody I've never met before. I'm easy. That's an easy thing for me. I don't have that barrier for some reason. Yeah. So it's like I think I flagged somebody down, and we got some jumper cables, and we gave it the jump, and then we got started, and we went to audition. And so it all worked out. But it was that moment of, did we just drive up here for nothing?
So how was that audition in comparison? How did they what's the difference for you?
At that time, it was we were in a school, so there was an area for all the drummers to just hang out and drum and get loose on a pad or on a drum, whatever you had. And then they would call you in one at a time. You go into a shut door, and then there's a table, and there's Tom Float, and I think Scott Johnson was there too, and also the center snare, the returning section leader was also in there. At that time, it was Sean Glide. What up, Sean? And Dave Glide's brother, Sean Glide is amazing drum set player. I think I remember he played at the Concord Pavilion. He played like Got a Match or something like that. It just blew my mind. I'm like, what? But anyway, he was there, and then you just walk in, and then it was the same kind of deal. Float was like, let me see some of this, let me see some flam jacks, let me see some cheese, some Swiss, And then it was like, all right. He goes, play whatever you want, and then it was like, all right. And then we just play a bunch of stuff, just throw down a bunch of stuff, whatever you had rocking at the time, and then he finishes, and then Float looks at Sean, and he goes, you got any questions for Pete? And Sean goes, yeah. He goes, do you own any moose. So I said, actually, I'm a gel man. And he goes, you're in.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You needed moose back in them days, man.
Well, it was just funny. It was like, I don't know. It was cool. And then I said, at that time, I was like, well, and I told Float, I'm not 100% sure that I'm coming up because I've marched VK for the last 2 years and it's a lot of pressure to return. And I wanted to see if I could make it.
Yeah.
And I think I do want to come up, but I just need a little bit of time to make the decision. He goes, no problem. All good, And then that was that. I went back home and I thought about it for a little while. And thing is, when I looked around in that room of all the other people that were playing for the audition, I felt like there was a lot of people that seemed to me to be better than me. So to me, it was like, that's what made it kind of a no-brainer, because I knew that I would find a place that I never wanted to be a big fish in the small pond, because I felt like I know there's bigger fish and I'd like to hang with the big fish, because I know that then you have a chance of learning, if everybody in the line is stronger than then you've, and you got 10 snares, you have 9 teachers.
Yeah, fully. So that year, did you know anybody, was there any friends in the line, or were you just going in cold? You'd seen these guys march, but you didn't know them.
Yeah, I went in cold, but it turned out that my friend Dwayne Matos also auditioned. He was at UNLV. He auditioned in Las Vegas, and we had marched. He was one of the guys that marched in Kingsman in '86, and then VK together, '87 and '88, and then he also made the line. And I was shocked. No offense, Dwayne, but I didn't. It wasn't like Dwayne was known for his amazing chops necessarily. It wasn't a bad player at all. He was good. He even had a solo in the show because he could totally, be reliable and handle it. But I didn't know he was that ambitious and that into trying to push himself as a drummer.
Yeah.
But he had went to UNLV and Float taught at UNLV, and I think he took all that time to really turn it on. I was blown away. That was cool. Another interesting thing was, in '89, there was another guy from VK. His name was Ron Nieto. Hey, Ron. And Ron was still in VK in '89.
Yeah.
And I had made Blue Devils, and I came back. I was living in Southern Cal, and VK was rehearsing around the corner from my house. So I went to go watch because I wasn't doing anything. So I think I'll go check it out. So I went there and I hung out, checked it out, talked to Ron, and Ron was like, man, you made Blue Devils. What's the book like? I'm like, man, I'll show it to you. We can drum it together if you want. He's like, so we hung out after that rehearsal. He came back to my place. Said, come by after lunch or whatever. So he came by and he looks at me. He goes, dude, do you think it's too late to audition? I'm like, I think we've got 8 snares and I know they wanted at least 9, it's possible, And I remember him saying, dude, but don't you think it's too late for me to leave VK? I'm like, look, I can't answer that for you. That's your own decision. You have to make that call. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't give you that answer. That's up to you, And I go, I mean, how's it going? You feel like it's cool? And Ron is a very funny dude in the extreme. But Ron goes, I'm asking him how it's going. He goes, let me show you something. Takes out his wallet, opens it up, and he shows me 2 tickets for DCI finals.
So he knows, yeah.
I guess he didn't think they were making finals, which is hilarious because, they did.
Oh, they did,
but,
as well. Yeah. So what did he do?
Didn't they? They made finals.
I can't
remember. They make finals in '89?
I think so.
I'm sure.
I think they did.
But Ron was always one to take care of himself. And I thought, like, wow, dude, you're in the line and you already brought tickets for finals.
Yeah.
Especially that back then.
So did he come to BD then?
Who is that on top?
Did he do BD? Did he audition?
Yeah. He went up and he auditioned, and he got the spot,
cool.
And then I remember after he goes, man, I'm going to do it. He called me up. I'm doing it. I quit VK. I'm in. I'm like, I can't believe you quit VK this late.
Who would do that?
Dude, that's messed up. He goes, well, that's your decision. I'm not going to tell you, It was funny though. I remember VK at that time, they had a policy where if they knew or they heard that you auditioned for another corps,
Yeah.
but you were a vet, that you were cut. That was like
Wow.
supposed to be something. And I don't know that they always followed through on that, but I remember just thinking that was messed up.
Well, some
You know, keep your members because they want to stay, not
yeah.
because of feeling like they're extorted.
Well, something with VK. I mean, this is something I'd like to ask you. I'm interested to know this. VK, they're a bit like an incubator for talent. Like so many great players in your time and later came through the VK to go on to, and I don't want to say bigger corps because VK were an amazing corps. They just didn't ever compete to win. They were never in the top 4. But there's so many guys that seem to learn the trade at VK and then go and compete to see if they could win. Like, do you know
at that time, you know, back then too, you think about it, in Southern California, a huge number of marching bands and drum lines, you know, probably more than Northern California, you know, I'm guessing at the time too. I don't know if it's the same anymore. And there was really only one drum corps in Southern California that was a national drum corps. That was VK. There was no Pacific Crest. There was no Gold. There was no Vessel or any other way of getting out there and competing on that level. So if you were interested in the activity and you were in Southern Cal, you went to VK, you know, and a lot of people would go there and stay there and were great players, you know. I think when you were on tour with VK though, and you would kind of see the way Blue Devils traveled and the way they were fed and the way Vanguard traveled and the way they were fed. And then you look at, you know,
different
someone, you look at, you look at what we were dealing with, you know, we were definitely roughing it, you know, to be super nice about it, at times, or even just the buses or just everything about the infrastructure of those corps, which is like Blue Devils and Vanguard are always legendary in that respect.
Yeah.
And then you're drumming in the line, you know, and then you see Blue Devils guys walking by and they're watching you for a while and then they walk off, you know, they FO out of there and you like, how are you watching me right now? How does that work? Like, so wait, Blue Devils are here, but you're not rehearsing. You're just hanging out. You guys get to do stuff like that, you know, like, like you see, I remember seeing Dave Krepp. It was like, I think we were in Ohio somewhere. And I heard that they had the day off at the theme park. We never had days off at a theme park in VK, you know? And I remember just watching them watch us. And I'm just thinking, oh my, it was like a recruitment thing. Like, I want to go there, you know?
Fully. Those, I mean, we're going to talk about some of these moments in a little while later when we talk about cadets and these. But I certainly had the same thing where you'd arrive at a school and it'd be like there'd be multiple corps staying at the school, and you'd have done 4 hours rehearsal, and then Cavaliers would be getting up, and then you do 6 hours rehearsal, and then Blue Devils would get up, and it was kind of like drinking Gatorade, and there's certainly different ways of doing things. I want to ask you. Someone just asked a question.
A lot of it.
Go on.
A lot of that is just logistical too, because Blue Devils will go on so much later in the night.
Yeah.
So like your corps that usually go on last, they actually get more time to rehearse during the day. They don't have to pack up all their stuff.
Yeah.
And I've seen the extremes of that. Like when I've taught troopers and we're playing during the day, and you realize that, man, this really adds up. We actually have a lot less rehearsal.
Yeah.
Because then if you're waiting around for retreat, it's not like you can go rehearse.
No.
And then you get out of there, and then you got to get up super early if you want to get a rehearsal block in,
Yeah.
So, I mean, that it is what it is. That's how it goes down, and you have to try to find a way to be successful within the system as it exists, and, it makes sense that Blue Devils are on last, and they're a huge draw, and it's great,
course,
Blue Devils and Vanguard and, your corps that are always vying for the top positions. So it makes sense. It's logistical, more than anything, I think.
Well, somebody asked a question that a moment ago that I was going to ask you as well. So you kind of you marched through an era where there was a bit of change, like geeky, drummy kind of geeky type stuff, but changing from the old snares to kind of HTS snares and the Kevlar heads. Like, how did you? Because you lived through that tradition, or that. Tradition is the wrong word, but that transition, I should say. Like, how did you guys find that? Like when you used I think you had Premier drums, didn't you? That were decorated like Yamaha. I don't know if that's the case, but that's what we always heard. And that, anything you could talk about with that stuff?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Well, VK was Pearl CC heads on Pearl drums, plastic both sides, throaty. You had to have a key in those days. Everybody had to be responsible for tuning their own drum.
Wow.
It wasn't like one instructor running around trying to make sure they're all the same. I mean, maybe for regionals, so someone would come by and really try to equal things out. We would just equal them out ourselves.
Yeah.
So, dude, your drums sound kind of low. Hey man, I think my drum's a little high. I'm going to take it down a hair. Almost said by no one ever, but because the humidity and playing on those plastic heads, it was constant. It was just a constant thing of maintenance of before every block, tuning it up a little bit, making sure it sounds good. And then, hey, I busted a head. Let me go change it right now. That was the one thing that Kevlar really brought to the table, is just not needing to spend as much time just suffering over your drum,
Yeah.
But I know instructors too got a bit, you want them to all sound the same, nothing like a Paul Rennick sounding snare line where he is before every show out there tuning all the guts and really fine tuning all the drums. And you hear the difference, it's how are you going to get that with everybody individually tuning their own drum?
Yeah. Gotcha.
If you have one drum that serves as the model and other people walk over and kind of do it, it could be done, but I think people don't want to leave that in the hands of the members.
No. I
would love to leave that in the hands of the members, because then it's more about the members learning too. It's more about, look, you might mess it up, but how we all know you don't learn anything without messing things up,
Fully.
Failure research. And if you don't get that happening and you don't have the chance to do that, then you're never going to learn. And I don't think that's a good thing either,
Yeah.
But we had Pearl CCs, and then Dave DeLulo. Okay. Do you know who Dave DeLulo is?
I've heard his name before. Yeah. Yeah.
His twin brother was drum major for I think the mellophone or French horn soloist for Vanguard while he was in the snare line.
Okay.
I don't think anyone has ever looked more Vanguardian than Dave DeLulo, in my opinion, with the mustache and just he looks like the prototype of a Vanguard guy. And he was a great drummer, and he marched in Vanguard a bunch of years. And then he left Vanguard his last year and went to Blue Devils and split center in '86. And he came on board after Dale Lofgren was gone. He was our snare tech in VK in '88. And he was also teaching at the time at UCLA. And what happened was he ordered, in '87 was the first year that anyone had those Kevlar heads. They weren't even called anything. They weren't called full lambs, right? They were just the new Kevlar heads. They were yellow. They didn't have any way of coloring it on the first. I still have one of those.
Yeah.
I got from on tour that year. Yeah. But and Vanguard came out with those in '87. No one else had them, and the sound was so like, oh my god, it was so distinctive and so clear. It was like going to HD. Although it sticks out of the ensemble more than maybe you always want, but it was undeniable. That sound was so crispy and so different. And then in '88, DeLulo ordered some of those heads for UCLA, but he was with VK at the time, so the box came to the truck.
Right.
So we were in the truck. Right. We see a box of Kevlar. We slap them on. So everybody changed heads without any permission. We just saw them, whether we assumed, Yeah. Like, what did you guys do? Oh, we saw you guys got us. Oh, those weren't for you. Those are for UCLA. Well, too late. So then playing on them, it's like we didn't want to not play on them. And that's kind of how VK switched over to Kevlar.
Okay.
And I just remember the first time cranking up a drum with Kevlar and drumming on those flam heads, I knew right away, I could just feel it, that you had to play differently.
Yeah.
That digging in and really using muscle was not going to be, you weren't going to get as much out of it. It's kind of a waste. You're fighting something because there's no give in that head so much as the Kevlar. Felt like Mylar guys, they would play and really grind out rock and just get this, because they're almost drumming a little bit like they're playing on their leg, but using the bounce, but also digging in a way like that, where there's a kind of point of diminishing returns on a Kevlar surface for doing that kind of business, And I think a lot of people messed themselves up because they tried to play the same way,
Right.
And you heard of people getting tendonitis
Yeah,
or having problems like that. I think it's because they had to let go and really embrace that rebound and used to manipulate that more and to work on. There's still a little bit of that dig in, but not quite as much, you know?
Yeah.
And then there wasn't as much maintenance needed, which was a good thing, you know? Look, I was in VK. I remember one time I had 5 or 4 rims on my Pearl CC head. So I had quadruple rimmed it.
Wow.
So it cranks down to where it's going to clear the rim. And then you got to put some of those, you cut it out. So you only have the rim and of an old head, and you put that on top. So I had you could count them 1, 2, 3, 4. And what happens is that head gets so thin, right? As it's kind of stretching out. And they sounded amazing. When you got a good, triple or quadruple rimmed Mylar, man, it's a glorious sound. It's crispy and it's got a really great feel, And I had my drum. It was just awesome. And then next to me was a guy that marched also in Kingsman and then went on to do VK. Mike Vasquez. What up, Mike? Mike was the guy that was playing inverted cheese before I knew what they were, and it was really upsetting. Okay. Also a great drum set player, great hand drummer, super talented dude. But he was I think on my outside, and his drum was like bang 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 because it was like a new head, and it was so annoying because my drum was the drum of the gods, and his drum was the worst sounding drum, and I don't think he had a key. Every time we stopped, I didn't see him cranking it up, and I'm like, so I grabbed my key. And kind of a dick move, I took my key and I kind of slammed it on his drum, and I said, "Why don't you do something with that?" And then he takes my key and he puts it back on my goes. He goes, "Nah, I'm okay." And he puts it back, slams it on my drum, and it goes right through it.
End of that beautiful drum.
So then I had to change my head, and it was like you just can't get it up in pitch before a show that much playing fresh head. So now I was Mr. Gang.
So that must have been a great thing then, really, for you going on to say 90 when that was what everyone had. It was a lot easier. I want to mention something real quickly. So you mentioned they're going to call them the red team then, Vanguard a few times. Now, over different periods of time, there's been friendliness between them, and there's been we hate each other. What was it like for you guys then? Because they were up there winning for a lot of the years that the 89, that kind of thing. Was there a rivalry? Was it friends? Was it people you knew?
We were bros. It was really friendly. We actually went to a couple of their rehearsals. We just went and hung.
Yeah. Wow.
And then hung out with them after and partied after.
That's cool.
It was good. I mean, it wasn't like we didn't want to totally beat them. Of course we did. And they of course wanted to beat us. And, their guys would come by our rehearsals sometimes and we'd see them. Hey man, what's up? It was cool. It was a good thing. It was one of the things I loved most. It was just cool I'll tell you, to illustrate like a quick story. I should name names. I will. Dave Haskell, there was a pillow fight that went wrong in 90 Blue Devils, okay? And it was an after lights out pillow fight. Let's just say that. It went wrong. It went very wrong. And as a result, one of our snare drummers, he broke his thumb.
Broke it? Ow.
Now that's what we heard. Maybe it was sprained because he did wind up getting back in the line and he did finish the year. It wasn't like he was out. He just needed to be out for like a week or two. So maybe it was just badly sprained or something. I don't know what it was at the time. But as a result, we're doing some shows with 9 snares in 90, right? And Dave Haskell, hey Dave, he lives in Japan. We actually, funny story, we went on a plane together at Tokyo Disneyland in a group called the Jameters.
Yeah.
Like he had auditioned, he made the group, I was coming back in the group and I'm like, hey, I'm talking to the people running auditions at Disney. Who are the other guys that are coming this time? Oh, there's this guy and there's some guy named David Haskell. He's from, I'm like, what? So it's just so cool that we, it's, a small world kind of thing. But yeah, Dave, he broke his thumb. So then we were doing some shows with 9 snares and then he was just free to do whatever during shows because he's just healing up. It's just his thumb. It's not like someone said you got to stay at the school, or he could do whatever he wanted. Once he got off the bus, got to walk around, watch people do whatever, grab some popcorn. There was no rules. And a lot of times in situations like that, he could do whatever. So he was walking around, and then, as happens sometimes at that age and that at that moment, like we were incredibly cocky, and proud of being a Blue Devil, and he would be walking around with his Blue Devils jacket. And I guess he went up to some Vanguard guys saying, "Hey guys, so when are you guys coming out to Blue Devils? You guys should leave this thing and, come over to, like overtly, like almost talking crap to our Vanguard brothers, in a way that was offsides. It wasn't cool. And we heard about it because Murray Gussick, he got wind of it, or he heard it. He knew that was not right. He knew that the rest of the line, probably didn't know this was happening and this is not a sanctioned event, So he came over, I think, to Josh Beals at the time, one of the the tenor section leader, and he came over, classy as hell, super cool. He goes, "Hey man, so your boy Dave is out there doing this and doing that. We know that that's not how you guys roll, so we leave it to you to handle it."
Cool.
It's kind of funny, these little undercurrents of things that happen that have nothing to do with the staff, but it was handled, and he was not to be speaking to anybody while he was convalescing from that point forward. It's like, dude, what are you thinking?
That's cool.
But
that's cool.
It was taken up as a no harm, no foul kind of thing, and no one got in a twist over it because they knew that wasn't what we were standing for. We were honorable. Is what we were trying. That's how we roll. And that's what I loved about Blue Devils too. There was that feeling of we wanted to win, but we wanted to do it the right way. You know what I mean? We weren't trying to. We would much prefer beat you on your best day. I don't want to hear, "Oh, we won. Oh, but we had a terrible day." Then it's not a real win.
Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah,
no.
Well, 90. I want to push you forward a little, right? So 1990, that like from the outside, that was like a dream drumline. Now, one of the big things that highlights of that year was that drum solo. Now, I'm just interested to know, as far as in that era, would the whole drum solo been presented to you on paper or whatever, like at the start, and it was the same for the whole year, or did you guys get to say, "Hey guys, should we try this," or was it literally just like, how does that process? Can you remember what happened with that?
Yeah. We were waiting for that drum solo. We were so excited about getting drum solo, and we heard it was going to be epic and big and great. And Float comes in, and he's got his briefcase. He goes, and we knew he had, I got the solo today. And we're like, oh man, we're like, and he had a drum machine. There was a Yamaha drum machine that he had actually programmed the drum solo. Almost the broad strokes of it were all in this drum machine, done by pushing buttons. It wasn't like
a long time,
like a software thing. It was more of like a hardware thing that he had done, and he played it for us. And it was, we were over the moon about it. We were just like so happy to get to it and excited to play the thing. And usually when we got music in Blue Devils, in that era, it was all handwritten and it was all scores. So usually once everyone got the same, and then what would happen was a lot of times oblong kind of pieces of paper, like 11 by 17 on a score. And then we would just take a second and do the fold so that your snare part, so you'd make an individual part by folding and taping, that kind of deal.
Like
fan, So everybody would take a second and set themselves up like that. And and I remember we're going through the solo, and it was a lot longer. It got cut down because the visual staff felt that was way too long for the drum line to just be parked in the front, that we were just going to get killed for that. And they felt like they needed to do some chopping. So a lot of stuff got taken out of that drum solo. That drum solo was almost like a best of, like everything I ever wanted to do as a Blue Devil was in that solo event in the beginning. And it was still awesome. Please don't get me wrong. And I remember we were so hurt when it got cut. But I remember talking to vets who had aged out before that were still in Concord, and they were checking us out and coming by rehearsal once in a while. And they were kind of consoling us. They go, "Dude, don't even worry about it. Like, whatever got cut, I mean, yeah, that's a bummer, but your solo is still amazing. Like, do not spend any tears on that. You know, you're good. Because it was always a feeling when I was in Blue Devils, like all the glory had already been gotten. Like, how are you going to be 86? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to do better than that? What? Oh, we got to win drums. We got to win core, and center snares got to win individuals with a score of 100. You know what I mean? Like, what? How is any glory left for any of us? Leave some for us, guys. Steve Campbell and Bob Bowman and the like. These guys that, you know, got like perfect scores in their individual solo, you know, and won drums and won core, like the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what's funny about all that? You go home after that, you know, rent don't care.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you go home a hero and you walk straight back down to earth.
You're feeling a little bit like Frodo coming back home after the Lord of the Rings. Like, you guys don't even realize the battles I've fought, right?
That's right.
But yeah, when we got that solo, we were going through it. I don't know. There's a piece of music I wrote called Ram 90. Okay, and it's. I know we'll talk about my book later, but it's in my book, and that I wrote that as an homage and trying to start a tradition at Blue Devils that really didn't take, as far as I know, because Kevin Murray wrote something called Ram 88. Yeah. And that was floating around, and you know, and it was at guys in North Texas had it. I got a copy. We would play, and it was just cool. I just thought there was something cool about, you know, the center snare or one of the top players in Blue Devils writing something off their own head, the stuff they think is cool, and everybody learning it, you know? So that's why I tried to tag onto that. There was no Ram 89, but I made Ram 90 because before we had any music, I thought it'd be cool for the newer members to get a chance to play some Blue Devil-y kind of stuff, and stuff that just kind of encapsulate things that we thought were cool at the time, that I thought was cool at the time, you know? So I wrote it, handed it out, and I said, hey guys, this, you know, and at that time there would be different like apartment Rams, like people that lived together in apartments would come up with a certain Ram, like they would do an ad a bar, and they would have this long, big bunch of cool lick that those guys that were living at the Cascades all knew, you know? And so I just handed it out and said, you know, check it out. I played it for him. Everyone's like, oh yeah, it's cool. And you don't know if it's going to be sticky. No. You're hoping, me as a writer, I'm hoping someone's going to go, cool, and not throw it out and go, I don't want to learn it. You know, you're just hoping that they want to learn it. And everybody did. And we learned it and we worked on it. And then I remember we wanted to play it for float. Tom, check this out. Something we've been working on. You know, this is before we had music. And we tap it off. You know, we play it for him. He's listening. He goes, all right. He goes, do you have this written out? I'm like, yeah. And I'm boom, copy, you know. And then Flo goes, play it again. So we played again. He's looking at it. He goes, all right. Then he worked with us on it a little bit. He goes, this is cool. This is cool. And then that was it, right? Fast forward to we get handed out our drum solo, and we're learning the drum solo, going through it. And then, oh, damn, there's part of Ram 90 in our drum solo.
No way. I never knew that.
It was like, and Float wrote a timpani part to the accelerando.
Yeah.
Tom stuff. Like, it was like a little kind of quote from something I wrote.
Yeah.
As a member. From Tom Float?
Yeah, that's big time.
You know, I don't the tears. I couldn't believe that was, you know, and guess what part got cut? That's one of the parts that got cut at the solo. But still amazing, cool, awesome.
That's cool. Man.
You know, ridiculous. Yeah, that was you know, a bummer that it got cut, but so awesome that it even happened in the first place that Tom thought enough of that. But that was part of Tom's strategy, I think, in that year, because also the tenor solo, the tenor feature was pretty much open to those guys to come up with on their own.
Oh, okay.
And the way it was, Float goes, all right, we need a tenor feature. And then I think the guys were probably like, how long? You know, how long should it be? And he's like, no rules. as long as you want.
I'd have made it longer.
It was.
Oh,
It got cut. Yeah. But all that came from the guys.
Yeah.
Those crossover files were, you know, that was, I think maybe Float helped a little bit with some of the phrasing. He helped massage it into place, and I think Scott maybe, I think Scott was around. No, he wasn't around in '90. He was around for part of '89.
Okay.
But they helped sculpt it a bit. But that was really from because they were a super strong tenor line that year too, and they had a great chance to. It's like boom, let them, and then I happened to get a little chunk in the Ram 90. That was all just really cool.
The Ram, this
from that.
Go on, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, I was just gonna say. See, you interrupted me now. I lost my train of thought.
I'll go because this is the same thing. So what I was going to say was you'd probably be prouder maybe to know that. So even in '95, we were still playing those same Rams. So '95, we would all be sat. We all learned Ram 88. We learned the non-Texas 91 Ram, I think it is, that Kevin wrote, and we learned yours as well. And I think that was why we brought back a Ram. So that was Ram 95. They didn't have one in '94. I don't know about '93 or '92. I don't think there was. So I think the Rams started to come back again in '95. Cool. So, yeah, that's cool.
That's cool. I think it was a cool idea, a cool kind of tradition, and a kind of like a peek, behind the curtain of what's going on in the members' minds. Yeah. At least what do we think is cool right now? Yeah. Because it changes. It's kind of like a fashion thing in some ways. Yeah.
100%.
So, yeah, right. I mean, I know that part of my Blue Devil fantasy involved definitely doing an accelerando that I never really got to do. Yeah. I always wanted to go, like from the 82 and 84. I mean, but it's like that stuff happened already, and I understand that from a. You don't want to keep repeating it. You don't want to do the sunburst every year. Yeah. If you're troopers, the idea that made it cool was that it was innovative, not that it was the actual thing you did. But but as a drummer, there's something exciting about seeing a clean accelerando because it's just reps, and if it's a smooth accelerando, it's just reps and everybody being on the same page. Yeah. Everybody listening and getting used to what it's going to be. And really listening to the group, So we had that in the original 90 drum solo too. There was a full on accelerando like you always wanted. It hit every checkbox, of what we wanted. The other thing I remember about 90 was everything just being clean, like almost all the time. It was when we were reading music, it was clean.
Right. So you were set.
I mean, it was like, okay, we'll play this. Like, damn. All right, let's do the next part. It was just cool that everybody was on the same page. And it's not that I'm not saying we never ticked. There was dirt, but for the most part, that was the cleanest experience from day one that I ever had. Yeah. And it was fun because, Mike McIntosh and me, we were good friends and we had a lot of mutual love for each other. In 90, I also threw in my hat in the ring to be section leader, center snare. Yeah. Mike, but it was Mike because Mike was there, before I was there, and he did a great job. It didn't matter. We were all on the same page anyway, and we would run sectionals. Sometimes I would take half the snare line, and he would take the other half, and we would work on stuff and clean it. That's cool. And then come back and boom. Clean because we were on the same page, me and him. That was really fun in that way. It was a good time inside. We were never worried about that. No.
Well, I'll tell you what I'd like to do, Pete. It'd take you. So, you're in like the legendary snare line from that era. You're split in center, and there's like if I take you all the way back then to when you were first at VK, there's obviously a huge amount of practice and learning that's gone on in that gap. Now, I'm almost an anti-believer in kind of God-given talent. I'm almost like everyone works for it. Like you get certain things given to you, but you work for it. But what was your maybe secrets or mentors or what allowed you to go from being a 12-year-old who just picked up a pair of sticks to splitting center with 90?
I think, the way I was raised helped me, because my mom, she always raised us and with the idea that we're going to do great things. She would tell us that all the time.
Cool.
And she would always let us know that we could do anything, whatever we wanted to do. We just had to put our mind to it. She knew that we could do it. She was our number one, cheerleader and support. And also, like, if we went for something and didn't make it, she'd be like, well, then you should get better. She wouldn't be like blaming the other people. She would be like, then work harder, get better, and that was kind of the ethic that we were raised with, So I think it's hard to overcome that if a kid really, if you don't believe you can get that good, then, you'll find a way to make that right.
Yeah.
You make that correct, that assumption, Also, like I said, I had really great teachers. I had, I learned from Dave Ramirez to start, and then I got to learn from Dale Lofgren and Matt Savage and Eddie Drayton and everybody, Dave Hinkle, the staff at VK, all those guys. And then I got to go to Blue Devils. I learned a little bit from Scott Johnson before he left, because he was like doing he kind of got out of the biz for a little bit before he went over back to Vanguard and then circled back to Blue Devils. So, but I got a little bit from him. Very subtle. I'll tell you this. My story is we were playing 8 on a hand and it was too fast for me, right? I'm just doing the best I can to hold on, trying to act like it's cool. I'm like, oh my God, this is super fast, yo. But I'm trying to play it cool. And Scott Johnson, this is in '89, and Scott Johnson is playing on my drum, right? And he's got his shades on, head cocked. You don't really know where he's looking. And I'm just trying to trying to play it cool. And then right in the form between, he goes, "It's looking pretty ugly, Pete."
Scott's got,
and I'm like, you're right.
Words. He's the good thing that I found with Scott is that he's not one of these instructors who speaks all the time. So when he does speak, you really listen and take on board what he says.
Yeah, and it's like all he needed to say. He's right, he didn't need to talk to me about anything other than the fact that looked ugly, and that it's the pithy, right? So the least amount of words to get the concept across.
Fully.
Sometimes you fall in love with your own descriptions or your own voice.
Yeah.
It's like I'm always looking for that. Just want the fewest amount of words necessary to get the concept across.
Yeah. I think the best.
See, I stopped talking now because you said yeah.
Right. Well, look. Quick bit of kind of housekeeping again. So any guys who are watching this, appreciate you watching. I'm sure you're enjoying this. If you have any questions, type them in. They pop up on my screen, which is why you're going to see me popping up and looking over here. We've got Walter Powell saying, "Hey Pete," he's a big name from the back in the day, isn't he? Walter Powell.
Who?
Walter Powell.
Walter. That's right. Walter. I've known Walter since high school. He was in was it Orange High School? Walter, where'd you go? But he was learning from the Harbor High School. He went to a different high school that was taught by Steve Yates. There was a little bit of a rivalry because they were really good, and I was at a school with Dave Ramirez at Magnolia High School back in the day, and we were really, really good. So there was some back and forth head to head there, but like we wound up knowing each other and seeing each other at auditions, and it was so cool to see those guys go on and do Vanguard. Because it's funny too, they had Vanguard staff at their high school too. There were some Vanguard guys teaching them. Right. Yeah. So they kind of transitioned to that, and then I was in Blue Devils and they were in VK or they were in Vanguard, and that was kind of cool. That was fun to see. That's another reason why I think we were all kind of close with each other or friends with each other, because it was cool to know somebody in the other group. It's not like you don't control what happens or people's reaction to what you're doing, like you just can do what you do. So there's not the fact that members would have beef with each other, unless you're, being a jerk at retreat, there's no reason for that,
Yeah, no, fully. Well, at this point, so we're up to 92. So at this point, there's a change in the force, right, to go back to Star Wars. So I know that there's probably still some blood and that kind of thing. I know it happened years and years ago, but can you maybe briefly explain, because from the outside world, so I had no idea that anything had happened to Blue Devils. I just thought, oh well, the drum line wasn't as good in 91, and then they came back again in 92. But obviously there was a fallout, let's call it. Maybe you can briefly explain that, and then then we'll talk about you going over to the other side of the country at Cadets.
I'm not going to talk about that. Just kidding. I hesitate to talk about it because it was a short time, in my life, and it was intense.
I bet.
There was basically an uprising. There was a kind of a bit of a mutiny in the Blue Devils. And the one thing I know for sure is that everybody went into that with best intentions for trying to be great, trying to be excellent. Just everybody had different ideas of what that was going to look like in a post-float era.
Right.
And part of the reason was too is, there were leaks, and at least it seemed like that from our point of view, like kind of through the North Texas connections that float was going to be gone. And then we're like, what? And from the Blue Devils perspective, they're like, look, if we can be this good and still get fourth place in drums, I think the activity is telling us something. We got to make a change.
Right.
On that level, how can you kind of argue with that? Because it's not like anybody was like, the drum line wasn't awesome. We were ridiculous, and every show was better. When we finished shows, it was just looking at each other like, yeah, that's how it goes. That's how it goes down. High five. That was even better than last time. Yeah, this was what it was like. It was like being in a dream. It wasn't like, oh, this thing went wrong. No, nothing went wrong. Why would it go wrong? So I can understand it from the administration kind of point of view, but we were kids. I was, we were crazy, cocky, on top of it all. And they got Fred Sanford in to take over. They originally just got rid of Catherine Float. They thought that there was something there, that they needed to get a different front ensemble person there. And it was framed that, they wanted Tom to stay, but he couldn't pick who was going to do the front ensemble or pick his staff. And that's a weird position to try to put somebody in who's, won drums 4 times in a row and everything else he's done,
Yeah.
Plus it's his wife,
Yeah.
Well,
that's, yeah.
And the whole thing just felt, it just felt rough. It was just tough, especially from our perspective as members. So,
Pete, can I just ask you a quick question? What would have kept you there? Bringing the floats back? Would that have, do you think, I know that as an organization that was never an option. Do you think that would have kept the drum line as it was?
I mean, if float had never gone, I would have never gone for sure. But, what happened was, and the drum trophy is named after Fred Sanford. And I got to say, I'm a fan. I was a fan, and Fred was always super cool to me. And even though I had to say some uncomfortable things to him at the time, because, bottom line is, at the time, I did not feel, none of us really felt that we're in the line, felt like Fred was quite up to this. He had been out of the game for a long time, but we were trying to buy in. We actually visited him at his house and hung out. We were listening to Stone Ground 7. We were trying to hype it. And it just, when we got music for the first time, like tenors had this lick, right, in the beginning of 91.
Yeah.
And it was pages and pages and pages of repeats.
Oh, okay. So they were like, well,
two bar phrase repeated over and over again, which is like unheard of in a top 12 book like that,
Yeah.
And it was like, there was questions about that. And he was like, well, yeah, we can do some variations later. And it was just such a, it was a different way. And it wasn't like we were prepped for that, or, had any conversation about it. It was like, here's the music, and it's this many, repeats. And then when the snare came in, everything was just really weird. It was hard to just get what he meant. And then I remember we were rehearsing it, and like, hey man, I remember because I came back and I was center snare that year, and I was, asked Fred, I'm not sure how this goes. Can you play this for me so we know what you mean for sure? It's like, sure. And he picks the sticks and he plays, and it was just not good.
Yeah.
Like what he played, it didn't clear it much up. And then he's playing. I'm like, whoa, is that an accent right there? It's like, well, it's more phrasing. I'm like, man, a 1 or a 0. Like, do you want us to play higher there?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, guys, mark it. That's an accent. Like this is how we came up on being very cut and dry about how we do what we do so that we can do it together.
Yeah.
And just what it just wasn't, it wasn't fitting the music. It wasn't supporting the music. It was weird. It was almost like something else happening at the same time that the horns were playing what they were playing. And then we played it with the horns, and it was not good. It wasn't good. But I remember staff knew that we were not feeling it, so they were trying to hype it up like it was good. And then that felt like they were kind of cutting us short.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys, don't tell me you really think that's good. And we said, hey, let's. A lot of the members of the line were like, I'm out of here. This is not what I came here for. Vanguard's best 2 guys that year said, we're going to Blue Devils, and they came with us. The snare line in '91 was gonna be ridiculous. We were going to do all kinds of stuff that we could never stuff that was in individual solos that we could now do as a line, because the line was so ridiculously strong that year.
Yeah.
It was like VK's best guys came, Freelancer's best dude came, and we had vets coming back. It was going to be really, really strong. And the Vanguard guys were like, this is messed up. Like, I didn't come here for this. I'm going to go back to Vanguard, man. Everybody was about to say, we're out of here. We're quitting. And, at the time, Dave DeLillo said, you guys got to realize if you stick together, you do have some power. That's what he said. And we thought about it, and we're like, well, we don't want to go. This is what we really want to do. Let's at least tell them. Let's tell staff, here's what's going on. This is not good. We felt like because Fred really spoke their language, we felt like they didn't know what was really happening.
Yeah.
They thought it was good because they know it through what Fred is telling them.
Yeah.
So we felt like we needed to tell them what was really going on. Things too, like the truck had not been opened since finals, for auditions, and Float never let that happen. There was no recruitment as far as we knew. It was just our word of mouth, and that was a little different too. There's a lot of things that were adding up to that. And so we told Dave Gibbs, and that was his first year as core director. Not a great thing to go through your first year, And it was, hey guys, some members of the drumline want to talk to you. Can we talk to you after the camp's over? We'll meet you over by the truck. He's like, sure. So he comes around after he finishes whatever, and he comes around the truck, and it's the entire line. He's like, whoa, what's going on here? Just tell him, we just don't think it's happening. We got the music, and then it was like, you can't tell the music's not good from just like, 2 minutes of music. There's no way. Yes, you can. You totally can. And I know he didn't like us, our cockiness, when he had been there for so long, and us, who the hell do we think we are? We're just kids. And at time, it felt like they were big time in us. Like, I'm sorry, almost, they never said this, but it felt like, oh, I'm sorry, it's hard for me to hear you through my rings. My rings are blocking the audio. And there's some truth to that too, right?
Yeah.
But at the time, we felt like it was we were going to be going to a slaughter, and this was our last chance of just letting them know, like, hey, this is not going to be good, and there's like still chance to change it around and bring in other people,
Yeah.
And or people are going to walk, and they got really offended that we were giving them an ultimatum. So we kind of had to back it down, and so, well, because I was spokesperson for everybody. And I didn't want to speak for everybody if I wasn't truly speaking for everybody. So we're like, well, it's not an ultimatum. We're just letting you know, you know. And then after Gibbs left and the line was all looking at me like I betrayed them, and go, no, it is an ultimatum. What are you doing? I'm like, what? I go, I don't know. You know, there's a lot of responsibility to talk for every one of you. After talking to Dave, you might have changed your mind. Like, do you guys still feel that way? Let's talk about it. You know, well, he's going to probably take him, you know, an hour or so to get home. Why don't we call him up and I'll tell him after? So like the whole line went to my apartment and I called Dave on the phone and just said, I know that you said the Blue Devil staff was never going to operate under ultimatum, but we're telling you, this is what's going to happen. People are going to leave, you know, because we feel like it's not happening. And then it just, you know, kind of got uglier from there. We had a rehearsal on a Sunday and everybody was in town, but nobody went because it still felt like, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but you don't know Jack. We know everything. Yeah. And, you know, they were kind of sticking to their guns on that. And you know, Fred, you know, wanted to talk about it. And, cool. You know, they asked me to go down into the core hall and can you come down and talk to Fred? I'm like, sure. Like, how am I going to say no? Yeah, of course. You know, and some people are like, no, don't go. They're just going to change your mind. I'm like, what, dude? You know, of course I'm going, you know? And then I had to talk to Fred, and Fred was like, Pete, is my stuff really that bad? You know, it's like, oh, you know, and I liked Fred. Fred was personal. He's a good guy. And it's just like, no, it's just that when we're playing through it, if I push fast forward in my mind, I don't see this working out to be what I signed up for, you know. And I moved from Southern California, getting a crappy apartment with all these people to do this gig, you know, and this is not really what I thought I was coming for. This is not, you know, and we had a long talk and it was amazing. Fred kind of, you know, talked to me for a while about his history and where he's coming from. And I was honored that he even cared to talk to me about, you know, personally like that. Yeah. And he didn't really change my mind about what I felt, but I thought if other kids in the line heard what he said, maybe that would change their mind and they deserved to hear that too. So we kind of set it up and Fred came over to our place and we all talked, you know, but at the end of the day, it didn't really change anybody's mind. Everybody still felt the same way. And one by one, everybody just decided what they were going to do. And we got on the phone and quit one at a time, or said, decided they're staying. Yeah. You know, I called up, gave, I'm sorry, but you know, I'm out of here, man. I'm probably going to go to, you know, I just didn't say what I was going to do, but I said, I'm going. And my plan was to go to the Cadets because I had one more year left to march. And in my mind, I felt like they were the group that was the least touched by the Anaheim Kingsmen, like the most alien group that was good. Yeah. That had something to offer, you know, it's definitely not VK, right? That was not a Bayonne Bridgman operation. That was not a Blue Devil, really Kingsman thing. Although Glenn Crosby had gone over there and taught for a while after his Blue Devils experience. So there was some of that, but mostly it was, you know, and everybody just passed the phone down the line and decided if they were staying and if they were going, because we realized that they weren't going to listen and it was going to be what it was. And at this stage, if you guys stay, you should stay and stop questioning it because it's not going to help. You know, just go all in for whatever they're doing and try to make it happen. You know, we didn't want to destroy the Blue Devils. We just thought it was going down and we're trying to throw an SOS out, you know? Yeah.
Well, the thing is, look in hindsight now, looking back, you can almost imagine the organization is trying to say, well, look, the organization is bigger than the snare line, but yet the guys in the other staff are probably going, we need that snare line, and it's kind of like, you know, it's a horrible situation. But look, it happens.
Terrible situation, terrible situation for everybody. And then I know that, you know, it felt like DeLulo, you know, and Josh kind of, I think more DeLulo than Josh kind of got the bad apple rap, thinking that it was him that kind of turned us all against him, you know, but it wasn't that. It was everybody was going to go. And we just realized that, well, we could also have a conversation before we go and try to see if we can change it. Yeah. Because we all moved up there. We didn't want to leave. You know, it was hard to leave. Yeah. I'd wanted to be a Blue Devil my whole life. And I was finally center snare. I finally had the one ring to rule them all. Yeah. You know, and I you know, I had to walk away from that and instead be a rookie age out somewhere, you know. I could have, you know, I know like one of the guys decided he went to Vanguard and tried to do Vanguard, Ron Nieto, and he was there for a little while. And then I think it was just so different. And he just decided not to march that year. He just decided not to do anything. You know, 4 of us left and went to cadets, 2 snares and 2 tenors. But it turned out just 2 of us stayed. The other 2 was like, I can't do this. It was just a little too weird, too regimented, it was just something that they decided that they didn't really want to do. You know, I got in a car of Kevin Murphy. What up, Kevin? I got in a car with Kevin Murphy. He was from Long Island. So I just grabbed all my stuff and jumped in his passenger seat and went home with him and stayed at his place and got a crappy job, whatever I could do to try to pay for stuff, and did cadets based out of, because they only did camps. Yeah. But I wasn't going to be able to afford to fly to every camp being in California. No. But if I could just move in with, I was already planning on not being home, moved out by January. So if I was in New York, there you go. Let's do it,
Well, let's get into cadets. Let's get into cadets a little. So there's going to be a moment, I imagine, there certainly was for me, because I did the same as you. I was at Blue Devils, and then because the school system in the UK, I couldn't go back and do Blue Devils because I couldn't move out until really late. And so I did cadets. And there was certainly a moment for me where you realise this is different. There's a lot of different, I'm somewhere else now. Was there a moment that you could think of?
Yeah.
Where that happened?
It was just all enjoyable for me and funny and interesting, because it's not like I didn't know what I was getting into. No. But it was, because, the other thing too is, like, when I was in VK, we worked incredibly hard on less sleep, and people see the VK of that era and think you must have had so much fun all the time. And our show was a lot of fun, and we did have fun, but worked way harder as a member of VK than I did when I was in Blue Devils, because Blue Devils relied more on the talent, and it was more about, treating talent like talent. Yeah. Like, your talent should be well rested and well fed so that they can perform at their best. Yeah. If there was a part that was consistently dirty, Float would walk up to us and be like, "Hey man, what's going on with this part?" It was like, it was this assumption that these guys are great. If these guys can't play it, there's something wrong with the part. Yeah. Not like, "You don't care, drop for 50, Yeah. So it was so different in that way. Like, we were never yelled at, not even once as a Blue Devil. It was just, that wasn't part of the gig. It wasn't at all the thing, You didn't feel that. It wasn't that. It was a different thing. And then so in cadets, I knew it was going to be different right off the bat, and I went out there with my mullet in full force, and I said, "Look, I know I'm going to have to cut it. I'm not going to cut it just yet, I'll get the haircut. Don't worry, But the guys in the line were all interesting, and they were all very cool. I actually called the cadets corps office after I decided to quit Blue Devils, and I called the corps office to see if they had any spots. I didn't know it, but Tom Ungst was the one that picked up the phone.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know who I was talking to, right? So I'm on the phone. I go, "Hey, I'm just calling and want to know, do you have any spots open in your drumline, in your battery?" And then he says, "Well, actually, we've already had auditions, and we're really happy with who we have. I think it's going to be a strong year, and it's be better to come earlier in the season." I'm like, okay. I go, "Look, I'm calling from Concord. I've been in Blue Devils for the last 2 years. I did VK the last 2 years before that. There's like 4 or 5 of us that are quitting today, and we're thinking about coming out to cadets." And then it was like, "Can you hold on 1 second?" I'm like, "Sure." So I hold, Then he gets back on the phone and goes, "Okay." He goes, "Look, I can't just offer you guys a spot, because I'm sure your chops are going to be good enough. It's not about your chops. It's about the attitude. If you have good attitudes and a work ethic, that's what it's going to be more come down to, And it's like, "Okay, well, let me ask you a question. If we come out, because I'm going to be coming out on a one-way ticket, I'm going to work long enough to afford a plane ticket to go back home to California. Because my plan to get home to California was going to be to hitch a ride with VK at finals and just go back." So, and I was just hoping that would be okay. Turned out it was, which was cool. But so he said, and I said, "So if we come out and our chops are good and our attitude is great, and our chops are better than someone that's there, will we get a spot? And if our attitudes are good?" He goes, "Yeah." So, "Okay, we'll see you next month." you know, and then that was it. I found out later talking to Unks too, like when, you know, he put us on hold because he was like, what? You know, like that was crazy. That was a crazy phone call. You know, people didn't get phone calls like that. You know, that was a weird thing that happened. Sorry about my computer got a little jacked. Yeah. So that was, and then when we went out there and they said, okay, battery, you're off this way. And, you know, we go and we looking, me and it was Vern and Mike Stevens and Kevin Murphy. And we're looking at him because it's like, they didn't want to see it. And I'm like, don't you want to see us? Like, don't you want to ask us to play anything or see us drum before we go, you know, pay out a drum? And then Unks goes, yeah, good idea. Cool. Let's see some stuff, you know? So then, like, I played some stuff, he played some stuff, and he was just like, yeah, man. Yeah, great. All right, go grab a drum. It was so funny. Like, our drumming pedigree or skill was never in question. It was really all about our attitude because of what they knew of the Blue Devils program and what they'd seen in the last few years. It was like they were not at all thinking that was a problem, you know? No. But it was a blast. And that was when I found out I sliced quite a bit. Like, my sticks were not going straight up and down because I was one of the least defenders. I felt like when I was during my Blue Devils era, there was some good slicers that could still play really well, but they tended to slice. And I was a proponent of not slicing, of being more straight up and down. I thought I was pretty good at that. And then we're playing double beat, and Willie Higgins is like, "Cut, Pete, you're slicing." Like, oh, okay. Tap, tap, tappy. "Cut, Pete, you're slicing." I'm like, okay, you know, do it again. And then I look at the center snare, Scott Clark, and I really look at what he's doing while we're playing double beat. And I'd never seen anyone play really straight up and down. And I realized that, like, because he totally did. It was amazing. And it's like I had not seen that before. I didn't notice. I'm like, oh, damn. And I'm like, Pete, cut, you're slicing. And I'm like, Willie, I want to tell you this. I know this might be weird for you, but I'm known for not slicing, but I'm realizing now, looking at Scott, I'm a slicing fool, and I got to fix this. Although I cannot fix this right now. I need some time on my own. So I propose to you that by next camp, you're going to see a lot less slicing. But if you keep cutting because of my slicing, we're not going to get anything done. But that's up to you. I hear you, man. I hear you, and I'll take care of that. You know, I just didn't know, believe it or not, you know? And I was like, okay, you know, so then they weren't cutting for me anymore. And the next month it was better. You know, I feel bad for the poor kid or the person that doesn't know to just say that, you know, that wouldn't know just to go do, you know, I know I might get extra hell for this, but I'm going to tell you, like, there's no way for me to fix this right now. I need to sit in front of a mirror. I need to trip out. I need some reps. I need time right now. And then I'll fix it.
Well, Willie Higgins was,
you know,
Willie Higgins was still, Willie Higgins was snare tech when I was still there. I'm interested to know what he was like back then. So with us, he was intense. He was the guy who shouted at you, not so much the tenors because I was on tenors, but the snares, they had sticks thrown at him and all sorts. But that was his way. That was the way he got. And he's a great guy. He gets great results. But that must have been a shock for you, I imagine, if that's how he was. Well, was he chilled or was he?
I mean, here's the weirdest thing is that. No, he wasn't very chill, you know, but he was a good dude, like, off the field, you know, and I think he was sympathetic to understanding that I was coming from a really different place, you know, but more than anything, when that kind of stuff would happen, it would be, and this would put me in an even worse place. It would be amusing to me, you know, like one time when Vern Johnson was still in, you know, we're in the line and they say, you know, Vern, get to attention. And like, Vern was like, we weren't that used to standing at attention. It was more like a quick thing. Like no one would really, we weren't doing it like that in Blue Devils. It was not like that. It wasn't so regimented. Like you stand there looking straight ahead for a few minutes and then someone counts something off. It's all dry and quiet. It was more like, yo, what's up? Set, boom, we're in. And you turn it on and then you turn it off. You know what I mean? But there was a lot, it was just such a different thing that they were going for. Equally valid and great, you know, but it was different, you know. And I remember them like you know, Vern, and then they say, and then they're like Vern, what you have to understand is if you keep doing that, everyone else is going to do push-ups but you, right? And then Vern just kind of smiles, and all the Blue Devils guy kind of smile. We couldn't help a slight smirk, you know. And then like I think Vern looked down at me, and I'm like, you know, I'm kind of like, don't say it, you know, like, you know. And then Vern goes, what you guys don't understand is that is appealing to us. It's like half joking, half serious, you know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a good fit for Vern, but for me, I just thought it was kind of, I'm like, oh, we're doing that. Okay. Like I remember one time they're like, Snares, that's it. Take a lap with your drums on. Right. And I just start laughing. I'm like, hi. And everybody else stops running. And I'm like, oh, and I'm looking at Willie. I'm like, oh, you're serious. I go, dude,
yeah,
dude, I'm sorry. You know, my bad. I really thought you were joking, you know, like,
yeah,
like, wow. You know, that's hilarious that you guys think that's all right, you know, but sure, I'll do it. I'll do anything. That's the point. The whole point was showing that you could do anything. That's what where my headspace was, you know, like, oh yeah, so to be a good cadet, you should be able to drop and do 50. Okay, let's get in shape then. I'll do that. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to bitch about it. Why am I here if I'm here to bitch about something, you know? It's like, this is, I'm in foreign occupied land here. You know, I want to be, my time at Blue Devils was now over. I was now in Cadets, and I was trying to be a great cadet. Just like when I was in Blue Devils, I was trying to be a great Blue Devil, you know?
Yeah.
I know it took me, you know, a while. I tell you one thing was, I kind of blew off a little bit the height system, okay, in the beginning. Because I was kind of like, get out of here. Look, mezzo forte, piano, accents and taps, crescendos. What are these fractions? Whatever, guys. Whatever. You worry about the fractions. I'm just going to play clean and use my ears. You know, we'll be just fine. You know, is in my mind, right? And then I'm starting to stick out. We're playing, and I'm sticking out. Cut, Pete. And then Willie gets onto this, and Willie goes, Pete, what are the heights there? I'm like, F and 8 to 3, you know, 8 to 4. I said two things that weren't even their heights, right? Totally exposed myself as someone that had not been taking in that info at all, right? And I just saw this look on Willie's face, like take a lap. I'm like, oh, gotcha. I'll learn it. I got you. I'm exposed. I get it. You know, I'll get it. You got it. And then, you know, that was a tough day for me, because Willie kept on wanting me to answer the questions. What are the heights there, Pete? And I would just take my drum off. What are they? 12 to 3. 12 to 3. Got it. You know.
It's funny.
And that's how
I had the same thing.
Go ahead.
I had exactly the same thing. Like, I can't explain how exact it was, because everything when I marched was loud. You can't see from there, but loud, full up, and quiet.
Yeah.
And there was no 6. We never played 6 inches. Why would we play 6? I mean, we'd play 6 if it was a quiet part of the show, but there would never be taps at 6 inches. And so I went through the same thing, exactly the same problems.
Yeah. And then I realized I did have to know that to stick in, to blend and really line up.
Yeah.
You know, and ears take you a long way, but it's a good idea. Even though they're 3, it's probably more like a 4. You know, what's an inch between friends? You know, like, you know, because if you really look at 3, I mean, that's low. You know, like, you know.
Yeah.
And some instructors, they you know, some programs, I feel like they're overhype the idea of, you know, really truly wanting like 3, because, you know, wanting that more than them wanting it to be quality.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of nasty sounding 3-inch taps that are really thin sounding, ugly, but they're 3 and they're flying under the radar in some ways. And I guess when you sit back from far away and you squint, you can go there great.
Yeah.
But like the sound is not quite that. And when you have that sound, that fat, really great sound, you know, I'm not saying that taps can't be at 3 inches, but I just, you know, when you have the quality of sound happening at any height level, you know, and I think it's difficult if your main driving thing is how high are they? How about how good do they sound?
Yeah.
How even are they? You know, hey, your even ass taps need to be a little lower, homie. I would prefer to have that conversation and, you know,
take a lap
than saying, oh, yeah, take a lap. Yeah.
Well, look.
You know, I tell you, we were on a bus going to a show, and we're on our way to a show, and someone asks, hey, who's judging tonight? And someone says, it's Scott Coder, and then me and Mike from Blue Devils. He played tenors, and I'm on snare. Both of us instantly go Scott Coder. We really go, oh, and everybody else goes, yeah. I'm like, we're on the other team now.
Yeah,
this guy. I know this guy is a hater.
Not anymore.
No, Scott Coder. But I mean, honestly, I'll tell you, this is the truth. Okay, I do remember getting crapped on when I was in Blue Devils in '90. Someone calling us out saying that our grace notes were a little gray when we played chop and inverted cheese, cha-cha in the solo. Yeah. Oh, grace notes a little gray. Okay, all right. So then here I am. I'm in Cadets now. Same judge. Playing some, guess what? Paradiddle diddles. What's going on, dude? Like, I mean, dirt.
Nice.
Dirt. Okay. Sorry. And the judge goes, yeah. Same guy that called us out for grace notes on our inverted cheese chuddiches. That was a little upsetting.
Yeah.
I was like, what? 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 And I to this day, I still don't understand what the mechanics are to how that could be perceived that way. You know what I mean? But it was interesting to be on the other side.
Yeah.
And there was Cadets had the biggest arc. Blue Devils, like I said, we were clean when we were reading new music. When I was in Cadets, man, we really were dirty in the beginning of the year. Stuff was pretty rough, and then it got consistent, and it got a lot better, and it got to where I'd be very proud of what we did, and think it stands against anything, But in the beginning, but it wasn't pretty getting there. And I think too, for the judging community, you start pulling for the group, because that's bad. Oh, then it's a lot better. Then whoa, that's one of the cleanest things I ever heard. Almost has more impact than a group that comes out that's clean all the time.
100%, yeah, because you see the growth, and you almost playing.
Yeah, you feel it, and also as a judge, you probably feel like you're partially responsible for the growth. You feel like you have more to do with it in a way, and that could maybe be more gratifying, But I mean, I remember Sevierville, Tennessee, when I was in Cadets, we straight up fell apart. I don't know if you remember Sevierville, but it has a really big dome. Like the field is definitely not flat. All fields are not flat. They actually are higher in the center so that when it rains, the water can drain off, right? But at Sevierville, Tennessee, it's extreme. So we had a part of the show in Cadets where half the snare line was on the backside line, and the other half was in the pit. Then they had to bring up their snares. They marched back. We marched forward. We met in the middle and busted this part. Like out of nowhere, right? That was fun. But that part, we're marching forward. We realized we cannot see the drum major. He wasn't the tallest dude. I'm not going to say he was short, but because of the dome, and we were all the way in the back, the top of the field, we could just see a hat. We couldn't see hands. So like we're just using the force out there. We're stepping off, and then we're just going for it. We're dudding. I'm with Scott. Scott's dut 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 dut. We look up and we see the snare line coming back at us, and their feet are totally in a different place than our feet were. Right? And we look up at the drum major, and he looks like he's doing a third thing. We're like, oh, here we go. And then we come on with this cold attack. It was like in round. Goes and then Scott just goes crack, 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 crack. Just goes right to taps.
Yeah, just that bad.
Show to get us back together. We did get back together, but woo-wee, hoo-wee, we never had any dirt like that when I was in Blue Devils. But it's part of that process, and it's a kind of cool thing about how Cadets would go after it with extreme, hard work, and just such a different approach on how they got to greatness, and it was fun to be part of that because it was so different from what I was used to, jazz versus classical, left foot, right foot, dangling earring. No, not never me. These are untouched. Yeah, I fought my lobes. So yeah, but anyway, it was really fun to be there. Staff I thought was really cool. They were super cool. Some of the kids would be kind of mad dogging me, like trying to see if I was like a Blue Devil spy or like I was going to crap on their in some way, or they would give me the hairy eyeball a little too often. Some of those guys, but again, like I was just mostly amused. Because the ones that would give you the hairiest eyeball sometimes were also the ones where they weren't that strong as players.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, coming out of Cadets, right? I want to get to your book. So, coming out of Cadets, obviously you've now gained huge amounts of knowledge from Blue Devils, huge amounts of knowledge from your route to the Blue Devils, but you now also got all of the stuff you've learned from the other coast, and obviously the different ways of doing things. You start to see the good and the bad of both sides. There's some things that Cadets do that you'd be like, if Blue Devils did this, they'd be, and the same vice versa. And years later, I mean, I know that you started writing this book a long time ago, but you've recently published a book, which I want to briefly talk about now, or not necessarily briefly, but talk about now. This is the book, so Drumline Essentials. I think it's really good.
Looks good. Look at that cover. Mm.
Well, I think that the great thing you've done in this book is that you've brought together everything that a learning drummer needs in one place. But also, you're not just doing the stand of, here's 5 exercises. There's so much more in here. You're talking about people's mindsets, and I was trying to think of the 3 things that you always say, like why, what, and how, or something like that. And I think that really does help people understand what they're doing, rather than just randomly, this is what everyone else does, so this is what you got to play. So, like, how?
Thank you so much.
How did you find the process of writing that? Was it easy? Was it hard?
You know what? I've been working on that book since I graduated high school.
Wow.
Because we were always hungry back then for info, and not a lot of stuff nothing was on computer. Everything was handwritten. And it'd be like finding gold. If you find, like, here are all the exercises that Blue Devils do. Be like, what? And you would keep that and photocopy it and maybe rewrite it in your own handwriting, just, so there was like a lot of things, because I started teaching right after I graduated high school. I started teaching high school drum lines, and, I was influenced by, like, when I was in the Kingsmen, they gave us like a packet and it would be all their exercises. Like, wow, this is awesome. Like, now I know like what to work on, because unlike studying trumpet or something, really studying our acts, marching percussion on a modern marching percussion has almost really been a word of mouth kind of thing. It's not like you're going to always get what you need to get out of books. You could say, oh, you should pick up, Ted Reed syncopation. You could be the Ted Reed syncopation master and get cut from anyone. Yeah. You can get cut from Vanguard or Blue Devils. Yeah. It's like, because there's not a lot of flams in there, there's no, there's other stuff, right? Even though it's not to say that that's not a fantastic book, but it's just, feels so specialized in what the vocabulary has become and how it changes. So it's almost like handed down from student to teacher, and not a lot of people have put it all in writing. So I was always collecting everything I could get and trying to hold on to that, because I wanted to have an easier time of teaching, so I could say, hey, I had to struggle to get this stuff, but here it is for you. Boom. You don't have to worry about it. Check out all these cool things to play. Yeah. Did you know there's an exercise called 7/8 invert? Did you know it? Check it out. It's cool. This is what it looks like. Isn't that fun to play? Cool. Do you know that Blue Devils on the field warm up from all those years, Chuck E. Cheese? Like, it's just fun to play. It's still fun to play. There's things that sometimes are almost like with pop music or with other music, that sometimes music or exercises or beats or ideas can feel a little bit of the moment and a little bit disposable, And then there's other things that feel like they stick and they stay around forever. Yeah. Like, how are you going to teach a drumline without doing some kind of 8 on a hand? Yeah. You're going to do it. How are you going to teach a drumline without talking about accents and taps and working on that one hand at a time? Everyone has kind of decided that that's not worth it to skip. That you should do that, like, and I feel like in my book, I just wanted to lay out that stuff, because I don't feel like it's all laid out that way in too many other books, and then the whole question, when you watch a drum line, like I've seen drum lines playing, let's say triplet accent, and they're playing that exercise, not marking time, no pulse happening anywhere. And sometimes I've been brought out to clinic a group like that, and they want me to work with them, and I'm seeing them play this, and I'm like, hey, can you guys mark time to that? I'll ask the instructor, oh, we never mark time to this. The kids can't mark time to that. I'm kind of like, why are you playing it?
Yeah, it defeats the whole object.
Is that not the point of this exercise? To be able to know where the beat is at and know that it's trip up, trip up, trip up, trip up, trip up, trip up, and be able to feel the quarter note pulse, so that when the metronome's on, and so in my book I try to bust it out so that it's like, what is this thing, right? What is it? And then how are you supposed to play it? What are the things you're supposed to look at? And then, like, why do we play it? What's the point?
Yeah.
Why are we playing this exercise? And also being of the Tom Float lineage and learning from Tom, just all of his, you don't even know the innovations that he brought to the table that now everyone considers normal, that everyone's like, oh yeah, of course you do it like that. Yeah. Thank Tom Float, just like short exercises that combine like a check pattern and the thing, and like, the 4-2-1, and, these ideas, I feel like, and I want to stay open. And if someone comes up with a better way to teach people, like, I'm all ears,
Yeah.
But I feel like if someone doesn't know those 4 variations of 16th notes and 8th notes, the one, if you don't know this exercise,
yeah,
you know it. I know you know it. E and a, E and a, E and a, E and a 1. If you don't know that holds the key to so many other things, that, and then also just beyond even marching percussion, none of this, a lot of the important things in marching percussion are just straight up percussion.
Yeah.
It just happens to, you apply it to what we do in marching percussion, but it's not like it's an exclusive to playing on Kevlar, that you understand that there are 4 variations of pulling one note out of 4 16th notes. That's musicality. That's understanding,
Yeah.
So I really try to front load the book with the things that I think are the most important to know. And then I also realized that drummers learning how to read music is a little different sometimes, even though we're looking at the same rhythms. But, I don't know that it makes a lot of sense to really talk about, whole notes when you're starting to read music if you're a drummer.
No, we never play them, do
you?
No.
You need to know that they exist, but but even you think of a whole note as being, like 4 counts of 16th notes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we fill it up in our mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I try to take that approach with talking about reading and rhythms. And, in the beginning of the book, I added that recently. Some of the stuff I just added over this pandemic. I went back and reinvested my time and say, let me straighten out some things in my book. Sent it also to some friends to help me hunt down some of those typos, that just I've been staring at it for too long. And you realize, oh, that's a left. That's supposed to be a right.
Yeah.
How dare I? I'm ruining kids left and right. Let me fix that. Just trying to fix, trying to massage all those things. And like, shouldn't this be in the book too? But does this still need to be in the book? Let's, the things that I don't teach anymore, because I feel like maybe they're not as valuable,
Yeah.
So it has been a lifelong process, and I still am working on it, because I feel like I want it to last, and I want it to be something that's, it's really scratching my own itch, so that if I hand it to my students and I keep on saying, oh yeah, we're going to work on this out of this page. It's like, oh, I haven't worked on that. It's like, well, it's in the beginning of the book. It kind of tells me where you're at. You haven't even looked at this. It takes taking away excuses. Like, well, no one ever taught me that. Well, then why didn't you open the book? It's there, and then, oh, I'm bored. I'm ready for more. But all the other kids are not. Go to the book. Look at the back of the book, man. Yeah. I got Ram 90, Jedi Knight, M Theory, like kind of more advanced vocabulary things. And my idea with those is more to you use those advanced things to open your mind up to different patterns and different vocabulary.
Yeah.
And I tell my students that, like, if you get something that you can't do, great, put it away and make an exercise and learn that pattern. Make friends with that pattern. While you're at it, work it on the left. and really work that idea, then plug it back into the thing. So now you use the beats to make you better.
Yeah.
Not just serving the beats. The beats are now serving you. Like you're opening you up for different possibilities. Take the whole thing off the left. Find out how weak your left really is. That's what I did. I just remember, hey, it would be cool. I just thought it'd be cool that the thing I wrote called Jedi Knight, how cool would it be? I'll call it Jedi Master if you start on the left,
That's cool.
I had the idea, and then after the idea, I tried to do it. And I'm like, uh-oh, it took me a long time to get it good off the left. And I realized how right-hand dominated my ideas are.
Yeah.
And how weak my left is compared to my right. You don't realize how magical your right is if you're right-handed.
Yeah.
You're like, man, wow. And it's a good way to build up to keep yourself a little bit more even, just doing stuff off the right and off the left. But yeah, it's been fun. And, I still may try to, I'm just self-publishing the book. I just did a website myself, and I decided, especially over the pandemic, let's just make it strictly a PDF. So you can pay $20, download it, and you got it, and you don't have to pay extra money for shipping, or you could print it out on your own end if you want. But I would love to get it in more people's hands and actually publish it.
Yeah.
But to be honest, when I reached out to TapSpace, what up, TapSpace? And I reached out to, I think, Roll-Off, I got no response. Like, I sent emails to the people I was supposed to email to, and they never even got back to me. So I'm like, all right, I'll just do it myself then.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop moving forward. I'll just do it, we'll do it live. I'll just do it myself.
Well, someone's going to see this video who's got some contacts with them. So somebody, put the word in there, because I think a lot of the time, knowledge like this doesn't get lost, but it like you said, like the more people that can have this knowledge, the better. You haven't done it to as a sly. You're doing it to help people. I mean, actually, I've got one other question about the book. So the visuals that are in there, they're really good. One of the things that I think makes the book work really well is the actual visuals that you've got in there. I think sometimes in books it's very hard for people to just sort of read a sentence that says, right, you've got piano taps, mezzo piano, and then when someone sees that in the bass drum, like, oh, cool, I've got it instantly. And so, like, whoever did your pictures, they're really cool, really help.
I did them.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, that was well worth your effort.
Yeah. Thank me.
Well done.
Thank you, me. No, it's just like, you want to move forward, and you don't want to be held captive by getting other people excited about what you're trying to do, Yeah. So there's an app called Google SketchUp that I kind of taught myself how to use.
Cool.
And I wound up using that for all of my, that's where all the wood guys come from, And my thought is, like, as I evolve, it would be great to have a photo shoot with some people and replace some of those pictures with, just use the same angles, but just replace the wood guys with actual people. That'll probably be like version 10,
Mate, I think I prefer that, because I think that sometimes you when you have a person there, it's like different people, different heights, different sizes. Maybe I'm wrong, but for me, I looked at it, I was like, that's genius. That's perfect, because
Thank you, man. Thank you, man.
It is. You really can. Well, look, Pete, we're going to start to wrap up. I want you to just quickly, where do people get the book from? What's the website called?
Just drumlineessentials.com, all one word. Just www.drumlineessentials.com, and just get it there. I got, right on the landing page, there's a bunch of testimonials. A crazy thing, very cool thing happened. Do you know who? Have you ever heard of Harvey Mason?
Yes. Yeah.
Drum set player.
Yeah.
He played with Herbie Hancock. He played with, more people than. You can see everyone he played with if you look on my on his testimonial on my book, because I met him when I was teaching a drum corps, and he had like a friend of the family had a student in the group somewhere. So he used to be involved in drum corps, and he came out to watch, and I was teaching, and he was there, and I got to meet him, and we started talking. And he goes, man, and he told me, he goes, I would love to, to get together sometime, do a lesson. I would love to get a lesson from you. Can you come out? I was just blown away. Harvey Mason, like,
yeah, if
you could have half his career,
yeah.
And it was just, and it was so humbling and beautiful to see that even someone, who's been doing this for so long, still hungry to get better and still open like that. And it just felt so cool. So I went to his place and I worked with him for a while. We drummed together. I didn't get to I want him to show me some drum set stuff. We'll do that someday, I'm sure, but we didn't have time for that. But it's funny, we were drumming and I noticed something about his playing, and I'm like, I noticed something. There was a detail, a little technical thing that was kind of stopping the stick from bouncing. And he was looking at it, and he looks down, and he's like, I'm 70 years old and I never noticed that. And you were totally right. He's like, man, I'm going to work on that. You're the man. It was like, he was so appreciative, and the fact that he even cares blows my mind, and we were going to try to do something together. He was going to have me do something with him on one of his, he's going to have one of his solo albums. I think we're still trying to do it. It's just hard and then the pandemic hit and everything else. Again, just to be, for him to, just to even mention it, it's just a huge honor because I have so much respect for him. Come on, that. You ever hear that song? That's Harvey Mason.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff like that. You're like, if I could just rub some of his skill on me, please, I'll take some of that.
No,
but
he's a legend.
What's a funny thing about drummers, right? Like a lot of times we don't always all get to hang out together in the same group. A group will have one drummer, or if you're in a wind ensemble concert band kind of orchestra, maybe there's 4 or 5 drummers, and you're split. You're one guy's all the way over there, and you're playing all different things. You don't get that camaraderie like you're in a trumpet section and everyone's playing the same part. There's something, and I think marching percussion gives us that experience. And you could tell, like, most of the time drummers are pretty cool with each other. There's not a lot of if there's an argument, it's usually about, no, dude, you're better. It's not like, it's not the other way around, and I love that about our drumming community. Everybody's willing to learn from everybody and be open. Super cool.
No, I think completely. I think, like you said, the great guys are guys who are always willing to try new things, learn new things. I mean, I've been spending a lot of time learning the current things, drum solos and things that I'm teaching, and it's evolved a lot. And trying to, sometimes you have to sort of force yourself to say, look, don't be stuck in what it was. It's this now. Try it. And when you try new things, sometimes you find that it takes you a long way. I've got a couple of questions actually. So someone said they've met Harvey Mason, Drummers for Life. There's one here which I think you like this, right? So this will be a good way to start to come to an end here. So we've got where is it? If you were a Jedi, what color would your lightsaber be?
First, I do have a lightsaber, and it is green.
There you go.
Yeah,
green is green. That I think I wonder.
I just got a great look from my wife. My wife looks over like, "Come on, baby."
Did you know it's green?
Maybe I'll go upstairs. I could go upstairs and get it and show it to him. Sorry.
Cool. Right. Right. So where am I at? I was going to say something. I've forgotten where we were now. All right, we're going to wrap up there. All right, we've been talking for hours. I'd love to get you back on again because I wanted to talk a little bit about teaching, and maybe I can get you on again, and we'll talk just teaching and Disney as well with something. But
Disney,
we've been going for 2 hours, so I'm going to let you go back to your lightsaber. But I always have a question.
Actually, it's back to getting my butt kicked by my son on Super Smash.
Super Smash, is that the game at the moment? Is it
Super Smash Brothers? He's he regularly beats me. It's upsetting.
Yeah, that's not good. You need to get some practice in when he's at school.
Yeah, I need more reps.
So what I would like to always do at the end is sort of say, if there was just 2 bits of knowledge, just 2, all right, 2 big phrases or words or bits of information you could pass on to someone, to Pete when he was 12, to help him get to wherever he wanted to go. Can you think of 2 things that you would say?
I guess one of my favorites is that, failure is research.
I like that.
It's only actual failure when you stop trying. The point is to you cannot get great or become a master at anything without making tons of mistakes. Nobody likes to make mistakes, but it's part of the process. And if you get so upset about that, then you should, what you expected to not make mistakes, So I guess failure is research is probably, one of my favorites right now.
That's such a good way of looking at failure. I like that.
And yeah, I mean, I feel like that's everything, because it's kind of so deep.
Pete, I like what your mum said, because like that's going to stick with me. Like, the way that she kind of brought you up to, I've got kids, and obviously it makes me think in this like different way that you can achieve anything you want, anything that you kind of, you want to achieve, and putting that thought in someone's mind is way different to sort of, bringing them up in a world where it's like, you probably shouldn't do that. That's not for you.
And yeah, everybody's got, I think people have to understand that as human beings, we are capable of anything. That's what's so great about being a human, is that we can literally do anything. And anything that anyone can do, everybody could do if you put in that kind of time. Some people do have a natural ability that seems to make it a little easier for them to learn certain things. But, hard work trumps talent all day long, every day, And if you have hard work and talent, then it's that's doing a lot of winning, right?
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, like, this guy is really good at math, and I feel like it's hard for me. So maybe I'm just not a math guy. No, there's none of that. That's a cop out.
Yeah.
You just have to. You don't know. And have you ever read Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers? Have you read that book?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I love some Malcolm Gladwell.
It's if you read that book, I recommend that. That's a fun book and very interesting, brain food. But you think about the people who are insanely successful at things, and then you in your mind you want to make this myth to think that, oh, this person was just born to do it. You could never do it like that. Like that's just. You could try to be good, but you're never going to be that good. And those are limits that you're putting on yourself. And if you actually look at that person's whole life history, when you see how good they are, you're going to say, of course they're that good.
Yeah.
You're not going to be like, oh my God, it just came to you. You're going to be like, oh, you did that. Oh, you did that. And you were doing that when everybody else was doing this, and you worked that hard for that long. With no accolades, no one seeing you in your woodshed getting better, no one puts themselves on YouTube when they're sucking, when they can't do something. They show you at the end, like, here, look how good I am now. And that's great. That's what's cool about when you see someone on stage, you're seeing the echoes of all the effort that was put in when they were not in the public eye.
Yeah.
That's why we clap, because you realize, oh, you didn't just wake up and decide to do that just now. You recognize that that's something that took time to do, and it was worth your time. It's probably really hard in the beginning. But yeah, like when you look at any of these people who have amazing success, really look at their history, and you're like, well, of course you were that successful. It's not like, oh, someone just, handed you the keys to the kingdom without doing any work.
Yeah.
It's why it's a lot better if you love what you do, because then when you put in the time, you're enjoying yourself, and you can learn, okay, I'll say along with failure is research. If I had to say one other thing, it would be enjoy the process. Learn how to enjoy the process.
Yeah. Enjoy the woodshed.
You could be still. Yeah. I think some people are convinced that to have a great rehearsal where you get a lot of stuff done, people's feelings got to get hurt,
Yeah.
Like it's gotta be rough. It's gotta be, but, have you ever seen like, it's interesting to me, like if you've ever seen, let's say, the people that are auditioning or trying out to be on like Delta Force or the Navy SEALs, those people get yelled at. Those people are all amazing already, and they're just like, people in their face, and like somehow they decide to train the best of the best in that way too. So, there's some value in it also.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, it's a whole lot healthier, to figure out how to enjoy the process And even when I was in cadets, it got to the point where, doing 50 push-ups and feeling like it was no big deal felt like it was its own reward.
Yeah.
Felt like, and getting that feeling of like, it feels good to work that hard too. There's something that the work can also be its own reward. I think we're all trying to find that balance,
Yeah, fully. Yeah, I think it is. And you've hit the nail on the head there, because it is, for me, the same thing. It is a balance. If it's got to be hard to make it interesting, but there's a point at which it becomes just a chore, and you push through the chores for a while. But if it's forever a chore, then you're doing the wrong thing, aren't you?
Yeah. If you feel like the person that's driving it is unreasonable, like no one could ever do that. No one would ever, that's when you throw the game down, because you're like, how could you know that?
Yeah.
How could anyone be successful in that situation? And you feel like, well, I'm good, but it doesn't even matter that I'm good,
Yeah.
And then there's that whole thing. Well, let's break them down to build them up. I don't know. I never felt like I needed that, but
no.
Maybe I did, and I don't know it. I don't know, but
maybe you will one day.
I don't know. I stay open. You never know.
I think this COVID.
I never want to be so.
I was going to say, I think this COVID is breaking us all down and seeing what we're made of.
It's true. Lucky. I'm so lucky. I'm in a great relationship. I love my wife. I love being with her. We have a great time together. I love my son, and this has been really hard on everybody, regardless. But I'm sure glad who I picked to go through this with. I couldn't have picked a better partner.
Yeah,
it's true.
I believe you, man. You're in the good books now too.
Thanks, man.
Look, we couldn't sum this up any better. So we're gonna say goodbye there. We really appreciate you coming on. There's loads of guys being on, popping in. Go and read the messages after. People input things about great teacher, great job. Everyone's enjoyed it. I really appreciate your time and coming to talk to us. For those guys who are interested, get yourself over to the Facebook group Marching Drummers Lounge. In there, we'll have this show will be up there. Previous shows will be up there, and we just talk drums in there. There's a whole bunch of marching drummers sitting, chatting about drums, and same with Freestyle Rudiments on YouTube. Same deal, free lessons, more interviews, and more of the same. I'll have another interview coming up, maybe or not maybe, but next week, and maybe again, and we never know. We may get another chat with Pete in the future. So Pete, much appreciated.
Hey, did I win the shirt? This was Jedi Knight.
Can you come closer? Because let me get closer for this, because I saw it when you first got there, but I don't know if the camera picks it up. The other side, you can see some look at that. Have you made that yourself?
I did. No. Yeah, it's Jedi Knight. I actually found a website on. It was a seller on Amazon that you could send them an image, and then I did. This is like an image I worked on just for fun when I got an iPad Pro, and just like messing around with the pencil, and I can handwrite stuff, and look, and I made a spiral and just made a little art thing, and then we actually made a print of it, and then I said, this would look cool on a shirt.
Yeah,
threw on our shirt. It's kind of fun.
Well, t-shirts next. That's what you need.
Cool. I actually was going to do that on the website, just trying to work it out. I don't know if people in the chat think it would be a good idea.
Yeah, well, let them know if you guys are into that. Then get them built, get them done.
Yeah, cool, man. Great talking
Awesome.
to you, Jeff. I appreciate you thinking about me for this.
No, pleasure.
And I think you're really good at this interviewing thing.
Well, thank you. It's a learning curve.
Well, I think that's key to learning, right? Is just having curiosity and staying curious, and finding interest in everything. And it's very cool.
Thank you. Well, much appreciated. Well, we'll see you again, and I hope to see you all again. Have a good evening and good night or good morning.
Thank you. I leave you with my Jedi symbol on the bottom of my cup.
May the force be with you.
And you too, my friend. All right. Take care, man.